You're listening to Full Circle Weekly News. These articles are compiled by Eric Younready, and I'm your host, Moss Bliss. This is episode 385, covering week 38, September 16th to 22nd, 2024. Linus Torvalds released Linux kernel 6.11. The most notable changes include support for atomic write operations at the block level, support for bind and listen operations in IO_uring, a new mechanism for blocking software interrupt handlers, the ability to write to memory mirrored executables, support for writing block device drivers in the Rust language, optimization of the get_random call, and a new implementation of AES-GCM. The new version includes 15,130 fixes from 2,078 developers. About 46% of all changes presented in 6.11 are related to device drivers. About 17% of changes are related to updating code specific to hardware architectures. 10% are related to the network stack, 5% to file systems, and 3% to internal kernel subsystems. FreeBSD 13.4 has been published, which became the first release formed within the framework of the updated 6-month development cycle. FreeBSD 13.4 installation images are prepared for AMD 64, i386, PowerPC, PowerPC 64, PowerPC 64LE, PowerPC SPE, ARMv6, ARMv7, AArch64, and RISC-V64 architectures. Additionally, builds have been prepared for several virtualization systems and cloud environments. The next release, which is scheduled for March, will be the final release of 13.x and will be supported until April 2026. In parallel, the FreeBSD 14 branch is being developed, with the 14.2 release scheduled for December 2024. Amazon has announced the creation of the OpenSearch Software Foundation, controlled by the Linux Foundation, which will oversee the further development of the OpenSearch project, a fork of Elasticsearch, as well as the Kibana web interface. The transfer of OpenSearch to an independent, neutral platform not controlled by individual companies will attract new participants to the development and make the project more attractive for implementation. The main principle of the management model is defined as development by the community for the community. Several major companies have announced their participation in the work on OpenSearch. The community that has formed has several thousand participants, including more than 200 maintainers from 25 companies and organizations. Since the fork was created, the project has recorded more than 700 million downloads. The fork continues to use the permissive Apache 2.0 license instead of the AGPL v3 license that Elasticsearch switched to, and also develops a number of specific add-ons that were previously supplied by Amazon in a separate open distro for Elasticsearch distribution, and replace the paid components of Elasticsearch. Since the number of modes supported in the Linux kernel to counter CPU vulnerabilities has reached 15, and listing all vulnerabilities in the kernel command line has become quite a difficult task, a kernel developer from AMD has proposed moving from configuring blocking of specific vulnerabilities to selecting blocking of attack vectors. It is proposed to activate blocking methods depending on the type of isolation violation, between the user and the kernel, mitigate_user_kernel, between the user and another user, mitigate_user_user, between the guest system and the host environment, mitigate_guest_host, between different guest systems, mitigate_guest_guest, and between different threads, mitigate_cross_thread. The proposed approach will enable activation of protection only against those classes of vulnerabilities that really concern the user. For example, cloud environment owners can enable the mitigate_guest_host and mitigate_guest_guest modes, after which the protection methods against the BHI, GD, LITF, MDS, MMIO, RETBLEED, RFDS, Spectre v2, SRBDS, SRS0, and TAA vulnerabilities will be activated. LLVM 19.1.0 has been released. It develops tools that compile programs into intermediate bitcode of RISC-like virtual instructions. The generated pseudocode can be converted into machine code for a given target platform or used by a JIT compiler to generate machine instructions directly during program execution. Based on LLVM technologies, the project develops the Clang compiler, which supports the C, C++, and Objective-C programming languages. Valkey 8.0 is a fork of the Redis DBMS created after the Redis codebase was transferred to a proprietary license. The project is being developed on a neutral platform under the auspices of the Linux Foundation, with the participation of developers from companies such as Amazon, Google, Oracle, Ericsson, and Snap. The project code is written in C and distributed under the BSD license. It supports Linux, macOS, OpenBSD, NetBSD, and FreeBSD. ValKey provides functions for storing data in key value format, extended with support for structured data formats such as lists, hashes, and sets, and the ability to execute Lua handler scripts on the server side. The database is stored in memory and synchronized with the disk version or reflected in the changelog on disk, which ensures the safety of data in case of an abnormal shutdown. Transactions, publish/subscribe mode, increment/decrement commands, list and set operations, key naming, master-slave replication, multiple selections, and sorting functions are supported. GNOME 47 desktop environment has been released. Specialized live builds based on OpenSUSE and an installation image prepared by the GNOME OS initiative are available for a quick evaluation of GNOME 47's capabilities. GNOME 47 is already included in experimental builds of Ubuntu 24.10 and Fedora 41. NXS-Data-Anonymizer 1.11.0, a tool for anonymizing PostgreSQL and MySQL/MariaDB/Percona database dumps, has been released. The tool is written in Go and released under the Apache 2.0 license. The tool can be used via unnamed pipes in the command line to redirect the dump from source DB directly to the target DB with the necessary transformations. Depending on the entity type in the security settings, the tool anonymizes columns for tables with the rules described in the filters section. If the table does not contain any rules, the data will still be protected, since the anonymizer will not include it in the resulting dump. It is possible to link the anonymization of DB entities in differing tables according to different rules and work with one-time generated data using global variables. Apple has released the Swift 6.0 programming language. Official builds are available for Linux, Windows 10, and Mac OS. The source code is distributed licensed under Apache 2.0. Swift combines the best elements of C and Objective-C and provides an Objective-C compatible object model, but features automatic memory allocation, variable and array overflow control, protection against the use of uninitialized variables, and blocking access to memory after it's freed, which significantly increases the reliability and safety of the code. Swift also offers many modern programming techniques such as closures, generic programming, lambda expressions, tuples, and dictionary types, fast collection operations, and elements of functional programming. The Swift implementation is built using technologies from the free LLVM project. To ensure high performance, Swift programs are compiled into machine code, which in tests demonstrates performance 30% faster than Objective-C code. Instead of a garbage collector, Swift uses object reference counting tools. The Swift package manager is included in the binary, providing tools for distributing modules and packages with libraries and applications in the Swift language, managing dependencies, automated loading, assembling, and linking components. Valve has published a new version of the Proton 9.0-3 project based on the Wine project codebase and aimed at ensuring that games created for Windows and presented in the Steam catalog in Linux work. The project's code is distributed under the BSD license. Proton allows you to directly run Windows-only Steam games in your Linux client. The package includes DirectX 9, 10, 11, and DirectX 12 implementations that work via translating DirectX calls to the Vulkan API, provides improved support for game controllers, and the ability to use full-screen mode regardless of the screen resolution supported in the games. To increase the performance of multi-threaded games, the eSync and Futex/Fsync mechanisms are supported. Zorin OS 17.2, based on Ubuntu 22.04 but featuring the kernel from 24.04, is out. The target audience of the distribution is novice users accustomed to working in Windows. The distribution offers a special configurator that allows you to give the desktop a look typical of different versions of Windows and Mac OS, and the distribution includes a selection of programs close to the programs that Windows users are accustomed to. Zorin OS uses GNOME as the desktop with a set of its own add-ons and a panel based on Dash-to-Panel and Dash-to-Dock. To integrate the desktop with a smartphone, the Zorin Connect application is supplied. In addition to deb packages and Ubuntu repositories, support for Flatpak, AppImage, and Snap formats is included by default, with the ability to install programs from the FlatHub and Snap Store catalogs. Ubuntu 24.10 Oracular Oriole beta release is out. The package base is frozen, and the developers moved on to final testing and bug fixing. The release, which is classified as an intermediate release with updates for a period of 9 months, is scheduled for October 10th. Ready-made test images have been created for Ubuntu and all official flavors. The CRIU Checkpoint and Restore in User Space 4.0 toolkit has been released. It is designed to save and restore processes in user space. The toolkit allows you to save the state of one or a group of processes and then resume work from the saved position, including after a system reboot or on another server without breaking already established network connections. The project code is written in C and is distributed under the GPL v2 license. CRIU is used in container management systems such as OpenVZ, LXC/LXD, and Docker. The changes required for Creo to work are included in the main Linux kernel. The areas of applications of Creo technology include ensuring OS reboot without disrupting the continuity of long-running processes, live migration of isolated containers, accelerating the launch of slow processes, performing the kernel updates without restarting services, periodically saving the state of long-running computing tasks to resume work in the event of a crash, load balancing nodes in clusters, duplicating processes to another machine, creating snapshots of user applications during operation for their analysis on another system, or in case it is necessary to cancel further actions. You've been listening to Full Circle Weekly News. For more details, see the next issue of the magazine at fullcirclemagazine.org or check the links in the show notes. You can contact me at bardmoss@pm.me. I'll see you next week.